Well, thank you all very much for being here. It's a very sad occasion. With these incredible families, I just spent quite a bit of time going over the loss of their children, incredible children. In some cases, they were grown, but to the families, they'll always be their children. We were discussing that. And there was no reason for it. People came into the country illegally and killed their children. And it's a very, very sad thing what's happening with our country with respect to whether you want to say illegal aliens, illegal immigrants, illegals, and nobody wants to talk about it. We just spent a lot of time discussing what happened. And the folks were telling me something that was incredible. Whenever somebody hears that it was an illegal that was involved with the death of their children, it becomes politically incorrect for a politician to help them. That's how messed up our nation is. And what happened the other day with Kate was incredible. And very interestingly, I started about a month before talking about the borders, but everybody in the press knows I've been talking about this for years. And right after, I guess I caused controversy, and for no reason, because I was talking about Mexico is sending people that Mexico doesn't want, and everybody knows that's what I was saying. And everybody knows that I have great relationships with Mexican people. I have many, many people who work for me who are Mexican. They're phenomenal people. I love them. They're enormously talented, tremendous spirit. I have great respect for the country of Mexico. The negotiators are much better than our negotiators. And they're sending people into our country that we don't want, but we take, and that they don't want. And you know who they're sending. Now, the problem is you'll cut the statement in half, you'll cut it down so you leave out what I said, which you always do, because the press, in many cases, is very, very dishonest. And I've actually learned it by speaking with the folks alongside of me. So you have the illegals come in, and the illegals killed their children. And we better get smart in the United States. So we're housing people from all over the world that other countries don't want. They're sending criminals to us, and we're putting those criminals in jail, oftentimes after they've killed somebody or hurt somebody. And whether it's Mexico or other countries, they look at it very differently and very intelligently. Why should we pay for somebody in jail for 25, 30, or 40 years when the United States, with very, very stupid leaders and representatives, will take care of the situation? And I heard there were going to be big protests outside. You heard that. There's hardly anybody. And I can tell you, if you look at who those people are and where they came from, they were very well spoken. Check out the Mexican government. Because I've been talking about the horrible trade deals that the United States is making with Mexico. And again, I respect Mexico for it. But I don't respect our leaders. And those trade deals are taking our jobs. They're taking everything. Ford is building a $2.5 billion plant in Mexico. They're going to make cars and trucks and parts and send them into the United States. We get no jobs, we get no taxes, we get no anything. No tax comes right across the border. And I'm telling you that Mexico is more concerned about my talk on trade than my talk on illegal aliens or immigrants, believe me. Because now Mexico's having a hard time making deals because they're saying, oh, Trump has brought this to light. So I have brought the immigration problem to light, especially concerning the illegal aliens and the illegal immigrants. But I've also brought trade to light because we are losing billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars with China and Japan and Mexico and every single country that we deal with. We don't make good deals anymore in the United States. So I'm going to ask a few of the folks to just say a couple of words. This great gentleman, I saw him on television the other day. I never saw him before. And he was talking about me. I said, what's he talking about me? What did I do now? I thought you were going to be critical of me. Everybody's critical of me. And he said that Donald Trump is the only one that speaks up about the illegal immigrant problem. The only one. And I said, what's he talking about? And then he told the story of how his son, who's this incredible young guy, who's going to get a scholarship to college and a great potential quarterback, great athlete, was shot from nowhere by an illegal who shouldn't have been in the country. And nobody wants to talk about it. So what I do is maybe we can start right here. And we'll just go down the line very quickly and we'll talk about it and get it out of your system. Because the system is really screwed up. Okay? Go ahead. Yeah, come to the mic. It's easier. Perfect.
Yeah, my name is Don Rosenberg. It's D-O-N-R-O-S-E-N-B-E-R-G. My son Drew was 25 years old at the time. He was a law student in San Francisco. He was coming home from school one night when Roberto Gallo, an illegal alien from Honduras, tried to make a last-second left-hand turn, and the two collided. They were going very slowly. Had Gallo stopped, I wouldn't be here today because my son would have just been bruised. Instead, he accelerated, driving over my son's body. My son's helmet had come off, wedged under his tire, so he couldn't go forward. He backed up, driving over his body a second time, and then went forward a third time, trying to flee, and a man, very brave man, had stepped in front of the car, and he stopped, and his tire was on my son's abdomen, and 5 men had to lift it off. We were told he was in the country legally, which was not really true. So I got involved in this strictly as an advocacy to get unlicensed drivers off the road. The more research I did, the more I found out what a problem it was with people in the country illegally. And as I started to testify, Sacramento, Los Angeles Police Commission, all I was hearing was, well, you know, these people work, they contribute, they have to take their kids to school. Like that was a reason that it was okay that they killed people. And every year, just driving, they kill about 3,000 people, which of course never makes it in the press anywhere. Most newspapers now don't even give the license or immigration status when they kill somebody. So that's what, so it was actually people here illegally that sucked me into the battle, because I had to start researching and find out, first of all, what they're saying. It's irrelevant, but is it true? So not only is it irrelevant, but it's not true. And it's completely hidden. And for all of you who live in LA, you got a 1 in 5 chance if you get hit by a car that driver is here illegally. And in certain areas, obviously, it's even higher. So this is a huge problem all over. And as Mr. Trump said, nobody wants to hear from us. We get ignored constantly. Well, the guy who killed my son spent all of 43 days in jail, and then I had actually met with Henry Waxman because I wanted him detained and deported, and USCIS responded back, we won't detain him because, quote, he's only committed 1 crime of moral turpitude. So you kill somebody, they can't even admit to that, and then they won't deport them. Fortunately, at my own expense, in 8 months' time, I finally did get him deported. A lot of these people aren't even spending, and you'll hear from somebody else, 1 minute in jail for killing somebody. It's absolutely outrageous.
One of the things that we spoke about inside, which I found amazing, I said, well, time will help and time will heal. And the statement was, it has not. That's about 5 years now, right?
Yeah.
And he said, maybe it's 97 or 98% as opposed to 100%. But essentially, time will never heal. And it's been the same for your wife, right?
Yeah, you get reminded every single day, whether it's a song on the radio, a TV show, you drive by someplace where your kids were playing growing up, you can't avoid it. I couldn't even avoid it. I just spent 2 weeks in the Arctic Circle with no internet service, no phone service, and what do I get? I hear about hate. You can't get away from it, ever.
I found that to be amazing, the statement. He said 97%, 98%. Go ahead, Donna.
My name is Lupe Morfin Moreno, and I'm here representing my sister, Angie Morfin, and my 13-year-old nephew, Ruben. Ruben was gunned down by an illegal alien in Salinas, California, December 29, 1990. And after my sister got over going insane, she tried to do something, and she did. She worked with the foreign prosecution in San Diego, and they prosecuted him, not here, where they let him go from here to Texas, where he murdered more people. But they went into Mexico, and a Mexican judge gave him 20 years without parole. I blame the American press, not only for Ruben's death, but for all of these deaths, and the deaths every day. Our children are dying every day. They're being raped. They're being brutalized. And with that, you have sex slavery. And that is not American. That's not American at all. I'm asking you, thank you, Mr. Trump. I've seen his books. I volunteer at the library, and I see his books all the time. I never thought I'd meet the man. But anybody that speaks out, all those other politicians, I hear them. I've been to Washington. My sister has given congressional testimony. Angelina Morfin, she went to give congressional testimony close to 20 years ago. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse. It is horrible meeting the parents, the mothers of these young people and even older people that are dying. It's in our newspapers, and they sneak it in little things. Somebody got killed, somebody got murdered, but they never tell you what nationality they are. Most of them are Mexican. Most of them are Mexican. Shame on all of you. Shame on your supervisors. Shame on your bosses. This is not comfortable for us. My sister, like Dawn, lives every day with this nightmare. It will not go away. It will not go away. She will live with it until the day she dies. She grieves every day. So don't tell me that you guys are helping. You're not helping, and all those other candidates aren't helping either. I wish they had the cojones of our forefathers. Our forefathers, the greatest generation that came before us. We're letting these people down. What is the matter with you? We have a responsibility, not only to the ones that came before us, but to our children. They should be walking our streets free and without fear. Thank you. Oh, my dear. Thank you. Where's my...
Beautiful. Audio.
I'm sorry. Is that better? My name is Althea Shaw. No? The light is on. Oh, okay. That's A-L-T-H-E-A, Shaw, S-H-A-W. When we found out my nephew was murdered, we heard the gunshots. And the exact place where he was murdered, my brother and I, we played there. And it's been so hard because my mom, right here, after working 44 years with Office of Education, it almost killed her because a grandmother is not, a grandparent, when parents aren't equipped, it's like our bodies are not made to bury the children. And my mom, it affected our family even to this day. And my nephew was murdered by a gang member who was in the country illegally. And my two sisters, my brother, and we just knew that we would not have any problem with deporting gang members. But when they found out he was in a gang, no one wanted to support us, but they supported us until they realized he was in a gang. We went to Senator Feinstein's office, and it's so sad about Catherine Steinle, because the people who were saying they're going to do something now, we went to Feinstein's office. We went, Mark Riley Thomas, the Board of Supervisors, they don't want to hear us. They say, Herb Wesson told my brother he was going to do something and didn't do anything. They tried to stop us from the prosecutors, everyone. And all we were trying to do was deport gang members who were in the country illegally. That's it. And so many times people say, but what are you going to do with all the ones that are here? Enforce the law. Secure the border. If you would read the harboring of illegal aliens, you would see the last paragraph is the outreach program. I asked Mayorkas about it. I said, you all, 2 weeks ago, the Board of Supervisors in Los Angeles County, that's why we're thankful for Mr. Trump, because Los Angeles is a sanctuary city. No one was going to talk about it. The Board of Supervisors, a couple of weeks ago, Hilda Solis, Mark Riley Thomas, Sheila Quayle, the three of them voted to remove ICE from the jail. We're talking about the jail. They're already in jail, and it's only fair. You shouldn't have to discriminate. Just enforce the law. The last paragraph of the outreach program says, go to the community and let them know that illegal immigration is a crime. And if you read it, and so I asked Mayorkas, I said, where's the outreach program? Because he was at a program where they were saying they were trying to encourage more illegal immigration. And you know, my brother, if it wasn't for Jamel's law, that we were trying to get Jamel's law passed, he literally would not have made it, because he loved my nephew so much. And I'm sorry to cry, but the night that he died, my brother was beating with his hands in the concrete, and his hands were swollen. He said, nobody's going to care in a couple of weeks about him. And a lot of the hip-hop people and the generation, I just wanted to bring this picture to show about my nephew. He was standing next to Beyonce with Destiny's Child, and she had her arm on her hand on his shoulder. And a lot of times, this is not about color. This is about, this is about illegal immigration, and it's a crime. And he loved this picture. And one more picture I want to show you. Once we had a party at our job. This is my nephew. He loved riding the horse. And a lot of times you see them when they're a little kid, but you forget. When you say, well, they're just the little kids. He was a little kid, too. And he wanted to enjoy life. And he was gunned down, and so many times they don't want to hear it. And when Mr. Trump, in our community, we love Mr. Trump. We're happy because we know he spoke up and he said something. And so I just hope that that when you guys keep in mind, enforce the law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to have Jamil say a little bit about your son and then what happened, Jamil, because it's tragic.
Hello. Yeah, my son Jamil Shaw, the second. He was shot dead in the streets by an illegal alien that was released in the LA County Jail without any supervision on a Saturday night. He was in jail for assault with a deadly weapon, battery on a peace officer, and he only got 8 months in the county jail. Then released him 4 months early, you know, into the community. The same day he got out, he murdered my son, because what you have to understand, what they don't tell you in L.A., Sheriff Baca, we had a meeting one-on-one, me and Sheriff Baca, and he told me to my face that your son was murdered because he was black. Because in the L.A. County Jail, when the Latino gangs are released, the Mexican Mafia directs them to go out into the community and commit crimes immediately, because they don't want them to be rehabilitated, or they come out and their girlfriend get them to stop, or they go to church, whatever. So they order them right back out there so they can get right back into the mix. But they order them to kill black people. So just what he was doing, he was looking for black people to kill. You know, so happened he was in my neighborhood only because he was visiting one of his friends because they didn't have any money. So he was coming to get some money. And they saw him around the corner. And if it wasn't for him going to my neighbor's house, my son would have just been narcissistic, because they wanted to kill him around the corner. The girl wouldn't pull over. She pulled over where she thought was a good spot. That's right in front of my house. So my son was walking right down the street into his death, you know. It's not fair. You'd be shot in the stomach. You know, the coroner said that he was laying on his back with a bullet wound in his stomach with his hands up, and he was shot through his hand into his head. They thought he was shot 3 times because his hand wound was so severe, and then the coroner realized that he was like this, on his back, you know. And then people say, well, hey, Donald Trump is the only person I see talking about that. All the Republicans that are running for office right now, they were going to bamboozle us because they want us to think that they were going to enforce the border and go after legal immigration and all that. But as soon as Mr. Trump started speaking, you see how all of them were trying to criticize him. So that means they weren't going to do nothing. You know, they promised us stuff over and over and over. The only person I could see is Mr. Trump, because even though we might be almost the same age, I'm 54 years old, and he looks like he's about the same. You know, you know, but what I wanted to say was that when you get to a certain, of course I lost my train of thought when I said that, you know, but you know what I'm trying to say though basically is that Mr. Trump is almost like, he's like a father image, you know, he's like the father. Everybody wished that was their dad. You know, I'm sure his kids probably thinking, man, I'm glad that's my dad. You know, he's a fighter. You know, he knows how to make money. He knows how to take care of business. And you have to trust people like that. That's why when he came, you know, when we met, so to speak, when I saw him on the day that he decided he wanted to run for president, and he said what he said, to me, he was being nice, because I would have said they're murderers, because my son was murdered. So what he said really was going easy, you know. But he's like the father figure. He's like the man that everybody would like to be, you know. And you have to understand that if someone's willing to take a chance what he's doing and what he's losing, you have to back them. You have to trust him that he can do everything. You don't have to support everything that he's doing, but you have to see that what he's doing is for love. He doesn't need anything that he's doing. He's already made it. You know, he must have a love of America. That's how I see it. I have friends, or of course I'm a black man, I have a lot of liberal friends. You know, everybody, the white man putting me down kind of stuff. They're all excited. I have friends calling me, man, did you hear what Trump said? Yeah, you know I heard. You know, I said, I haven't voted forever. I'm going to vote. Black people in the neighborhood want to vote for Trump because they see hope. They see change. They know it's coming. You know, you can tell by the atmosphere. Either way it goes, it's going to be change. The Republicans are going to have to change if they want to beat him, you know, in which I hope they don't, but they have to adapt. The Democrats have to adapt. He has the momentum, he has the power, and we know he can do it. And me and my community, I trust him. You know, I trust him a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was really nice. By the way, his son was an incredible young man, being considered by many colleges on full scholarship, a quarterback, and a really talented quarterback, and for no reason. For no reason. The man who killed his son was here illegally. Illegally. His son should be with his parents today. Please. Come. Oh, I'm sorry.
Got it. My name is Brenda Sparks, BRENDASPARKS. The young blonde boy in front of me is my son. He was 22 years old, and he had to take his girlfriend home, 9:30 at night. He's going along, just made a turn. He was about a quarter mile from his home when an illegal alien who entered this country illegally, was working at the time illegally while driving illegally, made an illegal left-hand turn into my son. My son was instantly put into a coma. They had to do a craniectomy on him because his head was swelling so horribly. His left leg was shattered and they had to put rods in it. All the time, my son was in the hospital for 4 weeks. My son's killer was driving around still. He didn't care. This is not just one case. We're not just 10 cases. Between 8 and 13 American citizens die every day, all over this country at the direct hands of illegal aliens. My former husband came here to this country. He came from Central America. He decided to come here because some Marines had come down to his town and helped out and did some things, so he wanted to be a Marine, his heroes. He came to the United States legally, joined the Marine Corps, is still in the Corps. I believe he's a Master Sergeant now. You know, honorable career, citizen. And I had to call him while he was stationed somewhere else to tell him that our son was killed. And further, that an illegal from a neighboring country killed our son. The press, you guys didn't do anything. The local newspaper in the area that happened, they twisted the facts. They outright lied. And never did they mention the guy who killed my son was delivering their newspaper. I was under the impression journalists are supposed to be fair and balanced. That's not fair and balanced. I have a loving friend, I call her my sister. Her child was killed. And the AP did a story and interviewed her. They talked to 4 sob stories of illegals. And her story finished it off. 4 to 1. Where is the fair and balanced reporting? Please, people, take your liberal image off, take your conservative mask off, and just report the facts. 3,000 to 8,000 Americans die every, or 5,000 to 8,000 die every year in this country, Americans, at the direct hands of illegals. Not just the one that's up in San Francisco, and not just the little handful that's here. Every single day. Stop reporting about the poor little illegals, because their poor little issue, they brought it on themselves. My son did not bring on a crash. My son was 100% legal, and the monster who killed him was 100% illegal. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sabine Durden, Sabine Durden, and this is my son Dominic. He called himself German Chocolate, and I also brought him. I'm carrying his ashes in my locket. That's how I'm around my son now. Dominic was 30 years old. He was a 911 dispatcher for the Riverside Sheriff's Department. He was named the Volunteer of the Year for Moreno Valley. He gave over 10,000 of his free time to help the community. He was riding along with the fire department. He helped the sheriffs, and he was on his way to become a motorcycle cop. That's how much he loved the law. He was my best friend, and he was my only child. His dad and I divorced, and Dominic and I for 10 years shared a household. We rode our motorcycles, we had fun, we enjoyed life. And today, 3 years ago, my life was still okay. I heard about illegals. I saw the guys at the Home Depot. I heard about sanctuary cities, and it was like, yeah, okay. And Sunday marks 3 years that my son was on his way to work at 5:45 in the morning on his motorcycle, 2 miles from our home. I was out of state. We had just arrived in Atlanta, my fiance and I. And the illegal alien made a turn in front of my son's motorcycle, killed him instantly, and Dominic laid on a corner that I have to drive by every day. The reason why we called him German Chocolate was because he was born in Germany, so was I. And his dad was in the military, and even though his dad was military, I had to go through a lengthy process of trying to get my citizenship. I had to sign paperwork. I got prodded and propped so I wouldn't bring diseases. I paid a lot of money, and I spent a lot of time, and I chose to become an American in '93. And I proudly waved that flag, and I thought my government is going to protect me and my family. And on that morning, when Dominic got killed, I didn't know right away. It was just all a blur. That's why my heart breaks all over for Catherine Steinle and her family. Because you don't even know what hit you. I found out he was an illegal from Guatemala. That came through Mexico. He was one of those dreamers. He came to this country and for 8 years committed felony, 2 DUIs, 1 3 weeks before he killed my son. And he ignored the laws of our land. But when he was arrested that morning, he enjoyed every bit of the laws that he broke. He was put into ICE hold where he bailed out, and I didn't even know it was possible. The DA didn't know it was possible. The killer of my son bailed out of ICE hold for $10,000 cash. He was a day laborer, so you wonder where did he get that money from? He was so arrogant, instead of fleeing like we were afraid to, he showed up at the court hearing where the judge made a deal with him before he looked through our paperwork, before he listened to 4 victim impact statements. We had the courtroom crying because Dominic was not only loved by us, he was loved by the fire department, by citizens. Everybody said he should run for mayor. He was the kind of guy you should bring home as a son-in-law. And the judge gave him 90 days, misdemeanor, 90 days for killing my only son, who's never done anything wrong. And if it wasn't for Dominic's popularity and my big mouth and being German, and now I'm an American, but my tank manner and my fiance, we drove up to Adelanto to the convention, to the detention center for illegal criminals every week, and we sat in there and we sat for hours and we wrote letters to the judge. And finally, it took us, not my government, but it took my fiance Anthony and myself, it took us 1.5 years to get this guy deported back to Guatemala. And I'm sure he's back because his family lives in Riverside in a sanctuary city. And every day when I drive by my son's spot where he took his last breath, I look to the left, and there are the guys standing there across from Home Depot, and I'm looking for that face. Nobody really listened to us. Our stories weren't really heard. It was a little bit in the beginning. It's like vultures on blood, you know. And then it dies down, and we talk. We go to Murrieta, and newspapers and TV stations, they talk to us, and I told them, you won't show this. You will never report it. And when I heard Mr. Trump, I started screaming. I started hooting and hollering, and I told my fiance, I said, well, if he wasn't married and I wasn't engaged, yeah, and we both like red, so, you know. Finally, somebody that had the guts to say what millions are thinking. but are afraid to say so. Even Hispanics that have done it the right way, they're tired of being linked in. They're tired of, well, we had to do it the right way. When am I going to get my refund? And Mr. Trump, I found this bottle, and that's what he is to me, my hero. Well, you got it first, but this is you. Thank you. And I did write a letter to you. I did, and it's in your office. It was sent there about Monday, and yeah, I thank you for what you've been doing for us. Keep going.
You're great, very good. Thank
Trump,
Yes, I'll take questions. Come on up, folks. Come on over.
this is great.
Sure.
You know, given what you've been saying already, and the fact that it's not popular,
Not popular.
and a lot has been made about gaining the Latino vote, how do you plan on doing that?
Oh, I think I'm going to do great with the Latino. If I get the nomination, I will tell you that I have many, many Latinos working for me currently. They love me. I love them. They're incredible people. But I was totally misquoted, and everybody knows that. And they take half sentences. Even for what we're doing tonight, half sentences will be taken and will make us all look different. And you know, one of the things that came out today during our meeting, somebody said that they thought it was a legal immigrant that killed their child. And they were really going after him. When they found out the person was illegal, it totally stopped. Now, somebody's going to have to explain why, but it totally stopped. Right? Who said that? Was that you? Do you want to mention that? I mean, don't even bother. But it was an amazing statement, because I've never heard that before.
But, you know, I would like to add something to your comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Say everybody gave, no, the press and politicians gave Mr. Trump a lot of grief. The general public never gets to weigh in on this, and the only time they actually have, you know, last year there was a vote in Oregon for driver's licenses, and the Democratic governor won. And just for the record, I'm a liberal. I used to be a Democrat, not anymore. But I'm not a Republican either. The Democratic governor won. The Democratic senator, Jeff Merkley, who's one of the most liberal senators in the country, won in a landslide, and the driver's license bill was defeated 66 to 32 or whatever, you know, whatever the numbers add up. It was a landslide victory. They were outspent 10 to 1. So when everybody writes, oh, 72% of the people want pathways to citizenship, but they won't give them a driver's license, it's nonsense. You guys don't do your research. And I've been working on this daily now for almost 5 years. And I can't tell you how frustrated I've been with the press. Is any of you guys here from MSNBC? Yeah, right.
Well,
You know.
I beg your pardon, sir, but that's not the case with me. And
Who are you with? Who are you?
KFI Radio Los Angeles.
Okay, let's
No,
take...
you're absolutely, I didn't know you guys have been great. I've been on John and Ken a million times.
Good.
All respect, sir, but if you could be more specific about what you plan to do to reach across the aisle to gain that vote.
What I'll do is get jobs for people. I'll take the jobs back from China. It's very simple. I'll take the jobs back that are disappearing to China, Japan. If you look at Japan, you look outside, ships, the biggest ships I've ever seen, loaded up with cars. You know what we do with Japan? We get nothing from Japan. You look at all of these countries, every single country has a trade deal where the United States is getting ripped off because we have stupid people representing us. And frankly, Mexico, I have great respect for Mexico. Their negotiators are far better than ours. Their leaders are far smarter than ours and more cunning than ours. And Mexico is not only killing us on the border, which they're absolutely destroying us on the border, but they're equally killing us with trade. And you go out, there's only a few people outside. By the way, for people that said, oh, they're going to be pickets, I couldn't even see any. But the one I saw spoke so beautifully, I would bet you that Mexico sent them. And they're more concerned in Mexico about what I'm saying about trade, because I'm exposing it. The Ford deal, the deal they took from Tennessee, where Tennessee was going to build this massive factory for cars. And all of a sudden the deal didn't happen, and it ended up going to Mexico. Mexico took it away. And Mexico's more concerned what I'm saying about trade than they are with the border. And when I look at a company like Macy's, I tell you what, the way they chickened out, when I look at Univision, which is controlled by Mexico, in my opinion, Univision is totally controlled by Mexico. Friends of mine that are Hispanic said you wouldn't believe what they say about you, and they know it's totally false. But they're totally, in my opinion, they're totally, first of all, Univision's doing very poorly. They're trying to do an IPO to get money out. They have tremendous debt. And the last thing they need is me, who was doing a deal with them. They totally broke a contract. You know that. Totally. I'm very good at contracts, believe me. They totally broke a contract. Because in my opinion, Mexico said, you got to do something about Trump because he's talking too much about the trade deals. And it's hard now for Mexico to make, because everyone's watching Mexico, because I'm bringing it up about they're ripping off the United States. I respect them for it. I totally respect them for it. And the fact that they're sending criminals and prisoners into our country, and that our people are stupid enough to put them in jails or let them roam the street, which is even worse, I have to respect them for it. I don't know if you know, Castro, many years ago, opened up his prisons and sent his prisoners to the United States. You know about that, right? In a much more sophisticated manner, Mexico is doing the same thing, okay? So go right about it. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
President Vicente Fox said that he called you an idiot recently.
Who said that?
Former Mexican President Vicente Fox. He told TMZ that
Oh, I'm sure he's a great. I'm sure he's great. Well, I'll tell you what. No, he is so. Let me just tell you something. Let me just tell you something. Mexico is trying to silence the people that talk about the horrible trade deals made with the United States for the United States. The United States representatives do not know what they're doing. We're losing a fortune. We're losing our jobs. And I have great respect for Mexico because they are outsmarting our very, very stupid leaders. And it's really sad. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Totally. Totally. What a question. Totally. Absolutely. They would absolutely. Just so you understand, I want people to be legal. I want people to come into the country. Let it be legal. Let it be legal. These are all illegal aliens we're talking about. Let it be legal. Let them go through the process. Open arms. All of us. Everybody up here would agree with me.
Yes.
I want people to come into the country in a legal manner. And that's what a lot of people want. And, you know, I see that the polls all have me #1 now. This is a much bigger issue. I didn't know this was going to be a big issue. And, in fact, I had Macy's with no guts, and I had NBC with no guts. And the reason, by the way, NBC's angry at me has nothing to do with this. Look, they have Lion Brian Williams working for them. They have Reverend Al Sharpton working for them. They have people working for them. Believe me, Trump is the best. The reason NBC's angry was because they renewed The Apprentice, which was a tremendous hit, and I said, I'm not doing it. They said, you have to do it. The top officials with NBC were in my office a few weeks ago asking me, please, please do it, please. I said, I'm running for president. I want to make our country great again. I got to do it. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not, but I got to do it. I turned them down for The Apprentice, and believe me, it's one of their most successful shows, and it has been for 12 years. And believe me, they are very upset about it. Yeah, I do well with Congress. I've worked with politicians all my life. They're easy. If you can't make a deal with a politician, you can't make a deal. Oh, I have. Oh, yeah, there are. And there's some good people in Congress, too, by the way. I know many of them. Who are the good people? You want me to start naming names? But you have people that can be worked with. You can't just sign executive orders. The country wasn't really supposed to be run that way. You have to get people in a room like Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, and they made deals. They were opposites in many ways, but they made deals. The leaders today, with proper leadership above, with a president that knows how to get everyone in the room and work it, those people would be fine. Okay, any other questions? We'd have to look at it very seriously. I tell you what, I'd start right now. I would build a wall. People aren't coming in except people that are legally documented. People would not be coming into this country. Yes, ma'am. Say it again. Well, that's because I was misquoted. And by the way, they'll do it tonight. They will take, everybody agrees what I said here is fine. Whether you agree with it or not, it's fine, right? Do you agree with that? Okay. They will take some of my statements tonight And instead of starting from the beginning, they'll start from the middle of the sentence. They won't say my statements that I have a great relationship with Mexicans, that a lot of Mexicans work for me, that, by the way, I sell very expensive apartments to Mexicans. I love the Mexican people. I love their spirit. They won't say that. They don't want to say that. I had cases where they would put on a sentence where they'd started in the middle of the sentence, and it sounds terrible. But if they started at the beginning of the sentence, it was fine. Everybody here said everything I said is fine. It'll be controversial tomorrow, yes.
Mr. Trump, the full video of your statement is available on the internet for everybody. How can
All you have to do is read it. Did you go to college? Did you go to college? All you have to do is read it, because they want to. All you have to do is read the statement. Yes, go ahead.
I'm just saying, if you're going to be president of the United States, shouldn't you be a little more savvy, and you've been on TV for a long time, to know how to talk in a way that you can construe?
Well, I guess, you know, I must be doing something right. I'm #1 in the polls. I'll tell you what, you people maybe don't understand it, you're not smart enough, but these people understand it. These people all understand it. And the people in the country understand it. You see, they're wise guys. You know what? Look, a guy like that, they're wise guys, that's all it is. Yes, go ahead. Yes.
There are a lot of angry people in California, sir. We've spoken to a lot of angry people. You may not see the protesters, but they're out there and they're angry.
And there are a lot of people that are extremely happy with the fact that I'm bringing points to bear. I saw it on television tonight. Excuse me. I saw it on television tonight. They're so happy that I brought this subject up.
Support you, but as the leaders in the state senate were saying last night, they're calling your rhetoric hateful and racist.
No, not just. It's, you know what? It's just the opposite.
But in light of that, Mr. Trump, is there anything in the last 4 weeks?
Let me ask Jamil.
Is
my rhetoric racist? Do you believe this?
No, it's not racist. What he's doing is he's speaking, like I said, he's speaking for the dead. He's speaking for my son. You know, he's speaking for the people who can't speak for themselves, that this man, somebody do something. It's unacceptable that we have to live like this because they want to push through illegal immigration. The least thing they can do is make it safe. If nothing else, we shouldn't have to have dead people just so you guys can get citizenship or a vote or cheap labor. Why? How is that fair to my son? He wants to be here with me. He doesn't want to be in heaven. I'm sure it's a nice place, but who's in a hurry to get there? Raise your hand. Nobody.
Mr. Trump,
You know, the one thing I would say, I mean, a lot of you are on the other side of the panel and all that, but I don't understand how anybody can really differ. I can't imagine how everybody in this room doesn't agree on this subject. People come in illegally, and in this case, they've killed their children. And they shouldn't have been here. If they weren't here, their children would be alive.
Yes, yes.
Kate would be alive.
Yes.
But in the last 4 weeks, you obviously think that you have been misquoted. You obviously think that we have twisted this. Is there anything that you have done, that you have said, that you want to apologize for right now, that you want to set the record straight and say, you know what, take it back?
Should I apologize? I think it was stated as fact. I know it's not pleasant, but it was stated as fact. Read it. But don't read it from the middle of a sentence or 3/4 of the way through. Read it. It was stated as fact. You know, in life, I have no problem with apologizing. When you do something wrong, I don't like to apologize when you do something wrong. But there's nothing, you'd have to read the statement. There's no reason to apologize for a statement that's so right. These people will tell you, many other people will tell you. Yes.
I just wanted to say, when I started speaking for my son, usually people don't connect him and myself, and I was called racist. So I would show him my son's picture, and I say, okay, what else you got? Then they would call me anti-immigration. Well, I'm an immigrant. Next, bring it on. And so finally we have somebody that says it as it is. It might not resonate with some people, but you have to agree that if you would stand in our shoes without your kids, and you don't even want to think about that because that's everybody's nightmare, every parent's nightmare, you would look at this a little bit different. And I don't think Mr. Trump has anything to apologize.
I appreciate, you know, yes, go.
Answer this woman's question. About the 12 million illegals, it's much more than that.
Thank you, sir.
So basically what you want is my son's killer to get a free pass to stay here? No. My ex-husband came to this country legally, okay? He did it the right way. And he is an upstanding individual, raising 2 children, or raised 2 children. We shouldn't just open up the floodgates. There's no floodgates. Illegals should get not 1 penny of American money, not 1 pat on the back, not nothing, because you know what? My tax dollars are paying for all these illegals and their children and that. I've lost my child. How much more do I have to give? How much more do I have to give? My other child? My husband? My best friend? My sister?
Remember this, all we're saying, excuse me, all we're saying.
No, you don't.
We understand when you're talking here and we're hearing you, no, I don't think any of us here are supporting illegal immigration.
Oh, yes, there are some people. Oh, no. Please, I can tell by the questions. I can see you're okay, but I can see some of these questions. No, I didn't. I didn't lump everybody.
Let me tell you something. You know what? It's just the opposite. When it's good to lump legal immigrants with illegal immigrants for, you know, whatever, how many jobs are created, whatever, that's when it's linked together. You have it just the other way around. Because look at a lot, and I apologize to you for lumping you with everybody else.
He likes you.
Look at the